Stop, listen, and ask yourself, have you ever pondered at the idea that there may be something to the other side? If so, and you're hearing my voice for the first time, then you may have just fallen into the void. Hey there. Hello there, and welcome, listener, to another creepy episode of Into the Void, where we talk about anything and everything paranormal. I'm your ghost host with the most G-Man, bringing you the latest paranormal stories and chilling accounts. Joining me here for this special episode, I have two people here with me. I have Renee, the ever so humble Bravo. Renee, how's it going?
Thanks. That's a good little nickname you made.
You know, you told me to give you a nickname,
yeah.
and that was the first thing that popped in my head.
I love it.
How are you doing, by the way?
I'm doing good.
Good.
I'm actually excited for this episode.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. Also joining me on this episode, well, let's put it this way. This show wouldn't be possible without the amazing help of the Into the Void team. And we just so happen to have one of the behind-the-scenes member here. We have known each other since 6th grade. She has been there since like day one of the podcast show.
Wow.
She is one of the smartest women I know and my best friend. Give her some love. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Nicole Birmingham. Nicole, welcome.
And, excuse me, but we've known each other since 5th grade.
Is it 5th grade?
Yes.
Oh,
Dang.
wow. I thought it was 6th grade.
So it begins.
This
This is how it's going to be in the whole episode.
I'm glad you're here, so thank you again so much.
You are very welcome.
Renee, Nicole, It's September, which means that we are getting closer and closer to that special time of year, Halloween.
Yes.
That's right. And if you look hard enough, you'll start to see Halloween decor in your local store. By the way, that rhymed unintentionally.
I did not mean
That was weird. Halloween decor in your local store. Tricks and treats are inching their way onto the shelves of Walmart and CVS and the 99-cent store. And speaking of treats, we have a couple of them. I don't know if it's much of a treat as more of an annoyance, but it's pumpkin spice season.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that started.
And one of the things I came across online, actually, all the list of 15 different pumpkin spice things that are just a mistake. And one of them just so happened to be pumpkin spice Pringles.
Ew.
No.
Yeah.
That does not sound good whatsoever.
No, not at all?
No.
I stop at pumpkin spice Oreos.
Really?
Yeah,
Ah.
I'm willing to try that.
You know,
but I'm not buying that myself.
For me,
Yeah.
it's pumpkin spice latte, and that's it. Nothing else.
I tried that for the first time last year. It's actually not that bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You mean the entire time that it's been out, you just finally tried it for the first time last year?
I'm one of those, take offense, I'm a white girl, I'm not going to do it because it's a white girl thing.
Ah, I see.
Actually,
Gotcha.
so
Halloween, by the way, has already started at my house. I have started decorating. I know it's September, but I couldn't help myself.
Halloween is 365 days, 24/7. Doesn't matter how.
Thank you.
Does not matter how soon.
Thank you very much.
I love how Halloween now, with like social media, is becoming like a bigger thing. Like,
No, it
I
really
was
is.
just
People
thinking
are
the
now
same
like
thing.
embracing Halloween
Yes,
now.
It's like Halloween's been forever, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last exciting thing I'm going to mention here is we have a ghost story. Ooh, chilling. It's actually kind of creepy. Renee, you had a chance to read this ghost story.
It was really,
Yeah,
I
Nicole,
really
you did
enjoyed
too.
it.
Yes. Oh.
Really
Wow.
enjoyed it.
Well, I can't wait to get into that. If you're new to the show, I like to post as much as I can on our social media sites, basically stating if you ever had a ghostly encounter, email the show. And I must say, I'm impressed with the amount of emails that I've received. Now, the thing is, we don't just take a ghost story and we put it up on our ghostly blog or just read it to the show. You see, we take the time to really look at every story given to us. We read it once, then we read it twice to be able to find bits of information in the story that we can later use, or maybe even witness statements to help bring the story to life. Renee, does that sound about right to you?
Yeah.
So before we get into this chilling ghost story, I would like to take a moment to thank each and every one of our listeners for tuning into the show. You have been sending in your ghost stories after ghost stories, and for that I say thank you so much. Also, a very big thank you to our last guest, Realm of Shadow, Eric and Nathan, for coming onto the show and sharing with us what it takes
So good.
to run a Christian haunted maze. For more on that, go ahead and just tune into episode 11. Renee, you were there for that. I mean,
that was actually really interesting to be part of, just to hear what they go through and what they do, specifically for a Christian haunted house.
that was absolutely amazing. Like you said, learning what they do, how they run things, the kind of backlash that they've got, but they were able to handle it with, such humility. You know,
Just to be able to be a part of building a haunted house.
Right?
Amazing.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was fantastic having them come on and talk about that. So, again, And listener, if you haven't had a chance, please go back to episode 11 and take a listen. Go online and leave a comment about what you think also. So now, Into the Void presents Ghost Story number 2. Nicole's trying not to laugh right now. I can see it.
I'm sorry. I hear it all the time. I never actually see your face when you're doing it.
Oh, yeah. Real quick before we get into this, I want to really put this out there. Yeah. A lot of podcast shows do live streams.
Yeah.
They do a lot of live streams, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever streaming service they use. And that's great. I think it's fantastic. I'm not really one to do a live stream yet. I'm pretty sure people are going to want to see a live stream. They're going to see want to see what we do.
Yeah.
But I'm more old school. I'm the kind of guy that when it comes to radio, I always want to picture what they look like. Think of when you were younger, okay, and you were listening to Kiss FM in the morning, or you were listening, or even now when you're younger, you listen to 98.7 in the morning.
Yeah.
If you're not looking at their social media and you just sit there and you try to picture what that host looks like. Yeah, we have a Facebook page and you get to see what I look like or what Renee looks like or heck, even what Nicole looks like. But
oh, God, I hope.
But my thing is, I'm old school, man. If you want a good radio show and you don't want to have to go on social media and look at their faces, then just sit there, turn up your headphones and listen to what we sound like. And try to, give a visual. Don't go crazy on trying to figure out what we look like.
Yeah, don't strain your brain.
Exactly.
I'll never forget the first time I saw what Rick Dees looked like, and I was like, that's not what I was expecting.
Yes. First time I saw him was a commercial where he was like throwing money out the truck, and I'm like, that's Rick Dees? That's what he looks like. Yeah. No, I mean, Rick Dees, shout out to you, man. You are awesome. I love your show. I love.
To you.
Yeah. Seriously.
Same happened to me.
We're not worthy. Let's get into this ghost story. Into the Void presents Ghost Story number 2. Número 2. Siéntese todos. I'm kidding. All right.
You do the whole ghost story
if I could do that in Spanish, I would freak myself out. So, this ghost story takes us to the great state of Michigan, a state for its Great Lakes, Agawa Canyon, and train tour. Also home to Fort Holmes, established in 1812 during the War of 1812. But it is here in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, is where our ghost story takes place. A man by the name of John recalls the night he was attacked by a malevolent spirit. Now, just imagine, if you will, being 6 years old and tormented by a vengeful spirit. Every night you go to sleep and the spirit shows up to torment you. You do everything you were told when a monster shows up in your room, hiding under your covers, closing your eyes, telling yourself it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. Well, as a kid, John would wake up at night to a man standing by his bed. Not in front, no sir, beside his bed. And if that weren't scary enough, he told me, as a kid, I used to wake up to a man standing up by my bed, shaking it. I always felt as if he was trying to hurt me. That is some creepiness right there. Seriously. Now, I've mentioned this in past episodes about how children seem to have some sort of sensitivity to the paranormal. But at 6 years old, how do you tell your family that you have a ghost haunting you at night? And I asked John this question, and he told me, my family is a strong Christian family. They don't believe in ghosts. So it made it a lot harder for me to deal with it since they wouldn't believe me. Now, we know at a young age, children can exaggerate the truth. But when the truth becomes ultra real, what do you do then? Since John's family didn't believe what was going on was paranormal, he had a hard time dealing with the situation. And honestly, who could blame him? It wasn't until one night when John was sleeping, he knew something was personally after him. He says, the worst was when I was about 8 years old. I remember it to this day. I was not sleeping. I used to stay up and fake being asleep because I was scared. I slept on a bunk bed in my bedroom and was on the bottom bunk. I had to sleep with my feet sticking out because the bed itself was too small. Right as I was about to fall asleep, something grabbed my foot. It pulled so hard, I fell out of bed and onto the floor. As I fell on the floor, I felt a sharp cut on my ankle, and I screamed the most blood-curdling scream. And it was so loud, in fact, my father came running into my room. He asked me what happened. I was trying to tell him that something pulled my leg and me out of the bed. My father, being the skeptic that he is, said I just fell out of bed. As I looked down and around in my room, I started to think for a second that maybe he might be right, until I looked at my foot. The foot that was grabbed and pulled had blood on my ankle. I looked at my father while he looked at my ankle, and I asked him, then how did I get this cut? He looked at me with a confused expression on his face. The next day, I went under my bed to look for what cut me. Now, to my surprise, under my bed was an old handsaw. When I brought the handsaw to my father, he said it belonged to my grandfather on my mother's side. The strange part was that it always hung above the door in our house. So somehow it got from there to under my bed. Plus, I was sure this is what had cut my ankle. In fact, I was so sure I could see my blood on the handsaw from my ankle. In fact, I can recall the feeling on my ankle that night. It felt as though fingers gripped my ankle and pulled me off the bed. It was something I will never forget. That is just creepy, right? So these attacks continued for a long time on John. It wasn't until he reached his 20s, that's insane, his 20s, that John finally got some insight on what was happening to him and why. He says, my grandfather on my mother's side hated children. Now, I never knew him growing up. My mother and her mother did not like talking about him. It wasn't until my 20s, my mom finally told me the whole story. You see, he got locked up because he went crazy. Turns out he hated children. He hated them so much that unfortunately 2 of my uncles were murdered when they were just babies. My grandmother was working nights at the hospital. When she arrived home from a long shift, she found both babies had been buried alive in the backyard. By the time she had dug them out of the ground, they were as still as statues. In that moment, she gathered her things, grabbed my mother along with her older brother, and left to a women's shelter. After my grandfather was locked up, we never heard from him again. Years later, I learned that he passed away in jail due to health problems. God, could you imagine just coming home and discovering that? Oof, no.
Sad.
So with everything that had been happening to John, one would think that he would get a little more peace knowing who it was that had been terrorizing him. I mean, you think he would have, right?
He would, yeah.
But there was still one more thing John had to do to get rid of this malevolent spirit. Sorry, guys. Just want to make sure I'm on the right thing here. Yep. I had a friend that was into witchcraft. She helped a lot by doing rituals she performed. Now, we had talked actually about an episode, witchcraft and like Wiccas and witchcraft. So we talked about like the type of like things that witches do in order to get rid of spirits, to deal with a lot. So it's kind of interesting that his friend just so happened to be doing stuff like that. She was able to bound a spirit to a stone and tied him up inside a box. Then we took a walk and buried the box someplace where no one would find it. I found it a little odd, but after everything that I had been through, odd felt calming. As we finished burying the box, my friend told me I had to push the malevolent spirit out of my mind, to not think about him. She said it was a big part of why his presence was taking over me. So I did. Lastly, as we were leaving, she told me to not look back. I'm going to say that again. She told me to not look back. As we left, a sigh of relief left my body. I knew it was over. So once everything was officially done and John was able to move on with his life, he took it upon himself to study religious beliefs and practices. John promised himself he would never allow anything like this to ever happen again. So that's pretty much it. That's what was sent to me.
Yeah.
And I got to say, there are tons and tons of questions.
Yeah.
One of the biggest questions I had actually was, why did his friend say to not look back? That bugged me for quite a while, actually.
It did, yeah.
So I did my research on that, and it turns out that it's part of a pagan religion, like ritual. When you go and you bury something that has been attacking you, something that has been bugging you, something that has been causing turmoil in your life, this being the malevolent spirit that John was dealing with. When you go and bury something like that, the reason why you don't look back is because it allows this, whatever is in the forest or wherever you buried it at, it allows whatever spirits that are around to gather and basically take away whatever has been bugging you, allowing it to move on, to cross over. But if you look back, it's considered to be rude. It's considered to be kind of a what's the word?
Kind of like you're looking at somebody in the shower when you shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the best example, actually.
Okay, but if somebody tells me don't look back, my first instinct
So
is to
yeah,
look back.
so yeah, and that's I treat something
know
like
how
that.
you
It's
do
like the puke incident, where when someone is throwing up, you can't help but look, because you're like, what is that noise? What is that sound? What is that smell? So it's true. Like you're gonna
I smell something.
yeah, exactly. So you're gonna look back regardless. But in the paranormal world, when you have something that is malevolent and has been attacking you from an early age all the way to your 20s, you have allowed it to basically take control. You're giving it energy. You're giving it what it wants.
It's like bonding with you.
Exactly,
there's
like it's
strong
creating an
tether.
attachment.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when you put something in the woods or bury it out there and you don't look back, you're not giving it power anymore.
Yeah.
You're basically saying, okay, I'm done with you. And there are times, there are reports and witness statements that state people have buried something before that has been, attacking them, and they look back and they hear a whisper, and that whisper kind of indicates that I'm not gone. You just gave me more power to stay with you. So whatever you tried to do, I'm going to stay now.
You want to get rid of me, but secretly deep
Exactly.
down inside,
Yeah.
you don't.
When you look back, that's like the secret side of you saying, "No, I don't want you to
I
leave."
kind of want you
That's
there.
When in
like my
reality-
last relationship.
Yeah, and in reality, you don't
I was
want
just
that.
thinking that, like, somebody breaks up with you, they walk away. No, stay. If they turn around, you still got them. If they
Then
don't,
they're
you're
then
done.
they're done that. Oh yeah. And that's the gong.
Right? That's the gong.
But yeah, so yeah, that was something that really stood out to me
that
the
was
most.
really interesting too.
Yeah.
I'm glad you really, explained that, because it bothered me because I read it last night and I was just like, don't look back. I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big thing, is they tell you not to look back.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I said, like my first instinct would be to look back.
Yeah,
Someone tells me don't do
that will
something,
be-
I want to do it.
You know,
I
and-
would do that too.
There are a lot of people that do look back and they do get attached again, and they have to go back, and sometimes what you just did will not work. You have to do a different type of ritual or different type of cleanse to get rid of whatever spirit or malevolent spirit is attached to you.
So then here's my question. If he hated kids so much, how did she not know this before she had kids with him?
Now that is a good question,
You know,
and
That is
I
true.
wish we could actually like talk to his mother or talk to him to see if she was, did she ever catch on to anything like that?
And if he killed my kids, I'm not keeping anything from him. Why
Exactly.
would you keep stuff?
Exactly.
That's true.
Especially a saw?
But if you go back and you put it in a I want to say like a psychological type situation, there are a lot of people in relationships that their relationship is so abusive, but they don't leave.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I
That's the
understand.
thing.
It's-
The same
yeah.
as look back.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, it's the
exactly.
same as look back.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's sad. It's really sad to hear that there are people out there who are in relationships, and it's an abusive relationship, whether it's physically abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. It sucks to hear all that stuff, but you know what? People stay because there's obviously something about that person that.
That's the thing. I think it's because it's the person that they either knew, or with this person's case, they heard it was a former family member.
Yeah.
So thinking that over time, like, okay, maybe it's just them just reacting to me, and that maybe eventually it'll get better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it never did.
But it never did.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's a sad thing. It really is. And I wish we could, talk to his mother or talk to him and find out, like, how did she notice anything, any signs? The other thing that caught me was the fact that this malevolent spirit, the family spirit, was attached to just him.
That's the
It didn't attack the
Yeah,
dad.
yeah.
It didn't attack the mom. It didn't attack anybody else.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear it was just him and not even the mother as
Yeah.
well, too. I would imagine it would be like kind of like a domino effect, like
Right.
the mother, and then it passed on to the son. And
Well,
Right.
if you think about it, like it almost seems like they'd never really talked about him.
Now that was the biggest thing, is that
maybe his dad knew
they
stories
did
about his
not.
grandpa.
Yeah, they didn't want to talk about it
Yes,
because they didn't want the
exactly.
kids to get scared about it
And
or
so
think that maybe
because-
he was still
yep.
around.
Maybe that's why he attacked, because he had no idea who this ghost is.
Exactly. Yeah. So
You
this
don't know
spirit
who I
was
am,
like,
I'm gonna let you know.
yeah,
who I am.
exactly. You don't know who I am.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna bug the crap out of you until you finally learn something or whatever. It's kind of sad. That's another thing too. Like families should not keep secrets like that.
Especially like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Families
that's
shouldn't keep secrets in general.
yeah.
I
Families
don't
shouldn't keep
think
secrets in
so.
general, but I mean, when it's a family member who murdered some family members.
That was the thing, a violent past
Yeah.
in
Yes.
your family tree or something
And you
like
would think
that.
down the line, eventually, his mother would be like, "Hon, I need to talk to you about this. This is what happened." But
Exactly. Like even if
they
you
just
have,
didn't want to talk about it.
if you
Yeah.
have bad apples, yes, it's part of your family. Yes, you don't want to talk about it. Like I have bad apples, but I gotta let my family know
Yeah.
what's going on, what happened, in
Yeah.
order for them to, if anything happens with them, maybe they understand. Oh, I'm not saying I'm just like my family member, but it does run in my family. Maybe I could get some help
Yeah.
for what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like
And that's the question I want to bring up, listeners, is if you know anyone or even yourself has had to deal with some sort of vengeful spirit, what did you do to get rid of that spirit? What did you perform a ritual? Did you talk to a friend who's into Wicca? I mean, there are so many ways to get rid of it, but I'm curious, have you yourself ever had to deal with a vengeful spirit?
Yeah, what limits did you have to do to
Yeah.
get rid of it?
Exactly.
And if you think about it, I think this is the first story where it actually happened to the actual person.
Yes.
Where like all the other
Yeah.
stories we've gotten, it's happened to their friend or
Yeah.
their spouse or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
This is the actual first person, first counter story type of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I gotta say, what a name, John.
I believe I pronounced it wrong. I believe it's Jean because it's Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, which
Okay.
I believe is like border of Canada, and so it's
so
French
French.
Canadian.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
there's a
yeah.
lot. I know for a fact there's a lot of French residents like building restaurants and
okay.
a lot of like French Canadian that live out there. But it is a cool name. I do like it. This type of haunting that happens to people, it's not uncommon for something
No.
like this to happen.
Yeah.
But there's something that I do want to talk about. Even though this was a vengeful spirit, and this spirit was obviously trying to hurt John as a kid, I want listeners, you may know, you may not know, there are spirits out there that are not vengeful. There are a lot of spirits. In fact, a lot of people have spirit guides. A lot of people have what they call as their guardian angel. And Nicole, you yourself actually had been dealing with a guardian angel of some sorts. Do you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about like what you've been kind of going through? And
Yeah, it's just it was with my grandma. When she passed away, she was like pretty much the one that raised me. I didn't have that good of a childhood with my mom, so I moved in with my grandma. And then her and my aunt pretty much took over raising me. And then the day she died, it was really early in the morning, so we were all up waiting for the mortuary to get there to pick up the body. And so we all went out to breakfast, and when we got home, everybody wanted to go to sleep. I was way too upset and way too sad to even try to sleep. So
Yeah.
I took my little cousin Susie's, or before the iPod, the little like MP3 player.
Oh, okay.
the Zune.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
Before
I'm thinking of
Zune.
Zune.
No,
Okay.
before Zune. I think it was the very little tiny MP3 player that you could only hold maybe 100 and something songs.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Where you couldn't like do a shuffle. It had to be the song
The
right after
order,
the song.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I
Old
asked
school.
her if I could borrow it to go on a walk because I just could not sleep with everybody. So she was like, "Yeah, go ahead." I put it on and I started my walk. And as soon as it started playing that song, "Don't Worry, Be Happy." And I just stopped. I looked down and I just bawled my eyes out and I kept crying. I was like, that's crazy. I told Susie about it, and Susie's like, "That's not the last song that it was left on. That wasn't even the next song in the lineup." And I was like, that had to have been Mama saying, I'm here. I'm still watching over you.
Yeah.
Don't worry. You're okay. And be happy with your life, And then that was right when she passed. So that was almost 10 years ago. It'll be almost 10 years now.
And that's always I love hearing stuff about like that where you have a loved one or a family member who has passed away and you get some sort of sign from them letting you know that, listen, I'm okay, but I want you to be okay also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's tough. That is tough.
Yeah. And then the other sign that I got that I know for a fact that she is looking out for me was just when did I call you? Like a week ago? Maybe?
Yeah.
Last week?
It was last week. Oh, yes,
I
yes.
don't know why I was having such a bad day, just trying to hang out with Susie. She couldn't hang out, and I was really mad because once my grandma passed, our family kind of went their opposite ways. She
Yeah.
was the rock that held us together. So I was trying to hang out with her and she couldn't, and it just like broke me, and I started crying, and I didn't know why I was crying. And then I started thinking of my grandma, and I started thinking about how close our family used to be, how much I miss my family, bawling my eyes out. So, you know, just being emotional chick. I had to go to work that night, and later on that night, my uncle calls me, and he's like, hey, how are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm fine. How are you? He's like, I'm okay. I just had this feeling today that I needed to call you, and I just wanted to call you. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I threw my glasses off of my face across the table, and I started bawling. He's like, oh my God, what's wrong? Why are you crying? I'm like, let me tell you about my day, what I've been thinking. And he's like, dude, I just got the chills. I was like, this is Mama. This is Mama totally telling me that she's still here with me. She's still looking over me. She's still like telling me I'm gonna be okay. Like,
when she told me that, I remember just going,
I'm
yes,
chills
my
just
best friend
thinking
had a
about it.
paranormal experience. I was so happy.
He was like, oh my God, you have to come on the show and talk about it now.
I was so happy about that.
I have the chills just thinking about it again.
The same thing happened to me when I think I said on the show, I'm not too sure if I remember, when my mother passed away just 2 years ago now. She was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver.
Ooh.
And they put her in hospice. So it was in the St. Jude's Hospital in Fullerton. And
That's a good place to be at.
It really is. They have a really nice hospital. So then, you know, we're sitting there, and it was like, they told us that it would take about either that night or a whole nother day for her to finally move on. And so then we're there the first day that she was put in hospice, and then next thing you know, my sister and I were like kind of like, okay, we're tired, and my niece, you know, she lives with us, so we're just like, okay, we're gonna take Kylie home, my niece, and because she's getting tired, but we just need a break from being here and stuff like that. My dad decided to stay because obviously, and we went home, and it was like midnight where we decided to finally go to bed. And I wasn't sleepy or tired, but I knew that I was exhausted just from everything the whole day and stuff like that. So I kind of just laid there in the dark and with my eyes closed. I was still wide awake, but I can tell that like half an hour passed and I'm just kind of relaxing. I'm not fully asleep, but I know that my body is not moving and my mind is kind of slowly drifting. And I hear my mom just not yell out my name, but just kind of say my name. Like, Renee, like, not concerned, just kind of like, just said it casually and calmly. I can hear it, and I literally wake up and I go, yeah? And then an hour later, my dad calls and says my mom passed away. Yeah.
See, that's like her saying, hey, you know, I'm going to be with you.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
And see, my mama, she said she had the same experience when her parents passed away, so, like, kind of hoping it stays on the family. If I pass, I want my kids to be like, I saw you.
There's an entire thing about that. You grow up with your family members.
Yeah.
Your mom, your dad, your grandma, grandpa. You grow up with them. They take care of you. They feed you. They pick you up after school, or they take you to places on the weekends. You create this bond with your family. So it's not a surprise when my father's mother passed away. I remember this specifically, waking up at 3:30 in the morning, just randomly waking up, and I heard the front door close. And I was just like, that's weird. But I went back to sleep. Woke up a couple hours later, and my mom tells me grandma had passed away. And I remember just like being upset and sad because I didn't get to see her again. But at the same time, my mind was more focused on, that explains why I woke up at 3:30. It's that feeling, it's that connection that you have with your family, and it's such a strong connection that when somebody passes away, you feel it. You just feel it. It's an interesting feeling. I don't ever classify it as paranormal because this is a natural occurrence that happens to people. So in that case, people call it xenonormal. Have you ever heard of that term, xenonormal?
No, I would still classify it as paranormal.
How so? Just out of curiosity.
Because in my mind, you're feeling the spirit leaving.
Okay.
And if you have any sort of feeling or any sort of thought of, like, even, the other day, thinking, that's totally mammal. I told that somebody's watching over you. Somebody's letting you know, I'm leaving now, but you're going to be okay.
Okay, yeah.
Since you're not too upset and you didn't leave in a bad way, it's just, you're gone.
Yeah.
Letting you know, I'm gone.
I have to say agree to disagree because it's fine.
Which is our life.
that's how we grew up, just agreeing to disagree. Only because of the fact that death is such a natural occurrence in life, and to me, if it feels unexplainable, but there is an explanation for it, I tend to classify it as a xenonormal as opposed to paranormal, which xenonormal is things that look unexplainable, but they're actually just a natural cause. I'm trying to think of an example of that.
So how would that not be anything different than
Well,
scientists trying to explain paranormal
okay, so
stuff?
you've got a house. Okay, this is like the most basic way to put it. You've got a house. This house creaks a lot at night. It creaks a lot during the day. So
my lady's house does.
right. So you have all these creaks and noises and weird sounds that are coming from the house, and people always say, "Oh, it's just the house settling." Well, if you look at it on a natural state, you've got the sun. The sun heats up the house. The house tends to expand a little bit. As it gets colder, the expansion stops, and now everything is settling in, and it's cracking and it's creaking and it's making weird noises. And I feel that example goes with when someone passes away, because of the naturalness of being with that person and seeing them all the time. When their spirit leaves, you get that feeling of, okay, I just felt like so and so had just left, or they even a song played that let me know that they were about to pass away, or I heard someone speak to me, and that then all of a sudden they passed away. It's a very natural occurrence to happen. Now, earlier on, it would be classified as paranormal, and the problem is that it was so classified as paranormal that people thought they were going crazy, and hence being put in asylums and all that. So now in this day and age, it's more of a xenonormal type experience to have, because again, the attachment with your family, the attachment that
It's
you
a
have,
personal connection.
personal connection. So that's just where I see it as a xenonormal versus paranormal.
Yeah. I see where you're trying to lay it out, and I do kind of understand where you're going with it. I do see what you mean. So it makes sense. It does make sense.
I'm not saying that it's not paranormal, though, because there are times where somebody passes away and people hear stuff and it's extremely unexplainable to them until a week or yours is was completely unexplainable. Like, why would that even happen? Whether you had that, I meant to ask you, did you have that type of personal connection
with my mom?
Yeah.
So growing up, I know that me and my mom always loved watching movies together, watch TV, because she liked to stay at home. She was a woman that she didn't like going out, so me and her always just kind of sitting on the couch. We always agreed on movies and TV shows.
Okay.
I think when I got older, obviously because of my adolescence, I did disagree with her, and I was a bit of a jerk to her. I will admit to that.
You know what? It's what
part
we all. It's all part of being a teenager. We all went through it. Yeah.
And me and her had a bit of a. I don't want to say mixed or rocky relationship towards the end, because she was an alcoholic, which brought her to cirrhosis of the liver. Yeah. Okay. So I would get a little bit snippy with her when it came to her drinking towards the end. But then I think the last year we reestablished that connection again.
Okay.
Of me and her and and stuff like that, because I think it was a year before she died. I did realize that she was gonna probably go pretty soon.
Okay.
Because her eyes, she got jaundice, so her eyes were yellow and stuff, and she did not want to go to the doctor because she just let her her disease take over, basically.
I see.
She let it take over herself. So
as happens with almost my whole family. It sucks.
I will say this. It was, just to give you a little back side of this before I get into it, because this is something that I did not write down or put into any words, because it just recently happened, and so it's been a little bit hard to deal with it. Just my mom's side, my grandmother just passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so I did not get that feeling that you get when somebody passes away. Okay. Now, I'm going to go a little personal here, so I do apologize, but the reason why I'm doing this is because I need to really let this off right now.
Yeah.
I need to get this off my chest. Yeah. So just recently she passed away, and we've been basically family members have been back and forth at the house. She left the hospital to be in her hospice at home, and she passed away. My brother told me I saw her once before she passed away. Okay. So it was nice. It was really nice to be able to be over there and see her. But I did not get that feeling that I did with my dad's side.
Now, were you closer to your grandma on your dad's side than you were on
well,
your
so
mom's?
see, that's the thing that's throwing me off right now, is that I wasn't really close with my dad's mom, but I mean, I felt like we saw her a lot.
A lot more than your mom.
Yeah, more than, well, no, because we saw my mom's mom quite a bit, actually more than my dad's mom. But for some reason, I had that I woke up at 3:30 in the morning
Yeah.
and, she had passed away. With this one, it did not have that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this, I've been having a very hard time. Like, it was hard even getting this episode together because, dealing with this, and I want to make sure my mom's okay and everything.
I was very surprised you wanted to do it so soon.
Yeah, it was more of just trying to, I want to be able to just keep going.
You got to keep your mind.
Yeah,
on other
exactly.
things.
I want to keep my
Don't go
mind going
crazy.
on
No,
this.
it makes sense.
Yeah, so again, I didn't get that feeling that normally you get, which I did read that, not everybody's going to get that paranormal feeling of, wait, I just heard my grandma's voice, or I just saw my grandma and then all of a sudden they passed away.
Really
So
quick, sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, you explained that not everyone gets it. So my brother has never gotten that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
My brother has never gotten that with my mom, and he took it the hardest.
Yeah. See,
when
and so
she- yeah.
and so I think that's why, as of right now, I'm actually going through a hard time emotionally because I'm trying to figure out why I didn't get that feeling, but I'm also trying to figure out, like, I'm remembering a lot of stuff that I did as a kid with my grandma. She was the one that picked me up, and I would get home while my mom was at work, and she'd put on Sesame Street and give me a piece of bread with jelly on it,
Just
So
hold on to that. Then.
Yeah, and that's the
Don't
thing, like-
try to look for.
Oh no,
a sign,
yeah,
'cause
and that's the thing
you
too.
will
Like,
be upset.
I've come to that conclusion of just hang on to the memories, because those memories are the emotions, as opposed to the emotions that you normally get. So it's been a definite up and down this whole entire week or 2 weeks, but at the same time, like, I didn't get that feeling. But I'm not saying it's not there either. You know.
Now, how do you not know that that's just not her throwing those memories into
That
your
is a
head?
good question. That
You
is a
know what
very
I
good
mean?
question. So I will say that it is completely normal for when someone's about to pass away to start getting a flood of memories. Now, it's one of those, like, if you didn't hear anything about your sibling or whoever passing away, and then you just heard about it that day, there's a possibility that could be the family member's spirit giving you
Yes.
to help you not be upset and not be sad, but more happy and excited that they are now no longer in pain and that they are not having to deal with laying in bed all day and, not eating and all that. Now they get to be what I like to call the spirit in the sky. Basically, they're no longer in pain. They get to be with their family members and whoever has passed, earlier on. So,
Because, like, Aunt Kathy, she used to, every time she'd have a dream about somebody, she'd have to call that person. Make sure that they're okay. Or if, like, a picture of a family member fell down, she has to call that person. Are you okay? Something happened.
there's a huge thing about that.
There is.
Yeah, I will go back into that another time, but there's a huge thing about when your family member's picture falls down. There's like a whole backstory and
She
like
was all into that.
yeah, it's really quite interesting. We'll definitely have to talk about that in the
Oh,
future.
yeah, that might be, because I have something about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll definitely get into that
Okay.
later
Yeah,
on.
no problem.
in the,
But going back to what you were saying about
Yeah.
the houses creaking because of the sun and everything, I'm really glad you said that because one of like your first couple of episodes, the other gentleman that was on here before with you, he was saying that every time the house creaked, it was a spirit. And I work, I do home health care in a house where it's from the freaking 60s. It creaks all the time.
That's the thing,
And I'm like, this cannot be because there's spirits in here. Come on.
Right,
man.
yeah.
So I'm really glad that you clarified that because, on your first couple of episodes, he was like, that's why the house is creaking.
Yeah.
That cannot be.
Yeah,
why the
there's
house
like I said, it's known as xenonormal, and it's basically just when things are naturally occurring that you can't explain, but then you realize it's a natural occurrence. It's something that nature's causing. It's something that is caused, because of science's put in there. So it's all xenonormal.
The mini walk or whatever it was not Zen.
No,
that was real. All right?
There are actual accounts of people in electronics. Now, remember, with electronics, spirits tend to take the energy from that electronic to be able to manifest or give you some sort of sign. So it wouldn't surprise me if, like, you were listening to the song and then all of a sudden, like, that song plays and you look at your battery and the battery's, like, drained down a lot. And that's energy being pulled. And there's a high chance that Mama was basically letting you know I'm okay and that I want you to be okay. I don't want you to, So
you can't prove it otherwise.
Yeah, and I think I'm not going to let you say anything else on that. I know where I stand.
It, okay?
Those are my thoughts.
This is what you get for having your best friend on the show. Well, let's just do one final thing here before we end the show. It's called My Final Thoughts. It's something we do here on the show where we basically just give our final thoughts on the story. Renee, do you have any final thoughts on this story?
I think one of the things that I found it really interesting about the story was that it ended up being a family member, a violent family member, too. And I think that was pretty interesting because usually when it comes to not vengeful spirits, but like when it comes to like that type of violentness of a paranormal activity at all, usually it's demonic.
Oh,
at least like, that I've heard.
Okay, yeah.
So this for me to hear that it's a family member that's doing it really made it interesting. That's why I found that story really interesting. That was a past family member.
Nicole, do you have any final thoughts on this story?
Not really. I've pretty much said my piece on the story. So, I mean, I don't know. Just like I said, how did she not see signs?
Yeah.
You know, why is a family member attacking? Why keep stuff of a
that's another thing
of a family member who's murdered?
You gotta be open about that.
Yes, talk to your families, man. Tell them good stuff, bad stuff, especially the bad stuff, so they know what to look out for in themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my final thoughts on this story, I agree with you guys 100%. The telling your family not to keep secrets, because secrets are bad. They really can. They really. I mean, look at John's family.
Goodness.
Keeping that secret and him being attacked and not knowing until he was older. That's no good.
Hey, sorry. How does the mom not tell the son this when he's talking about it, when it happened to him?
Yeah.
Right.
I remember though, he was also too scared to say anything.
Yes, I was gonna say maybe because she thinks it would make him scareder.
Yeah.
But I mean, still, you have to think if this is. I don't believe, but maybe this is really what's going on.
Well, I will say this. Like I said, my final thoughts are that I do agree with you guys on every level in the story. And it also makes me wonder, though, because with every vengeful spirit, every demonic entity, every paranormal account that ever happens anywhere, sometimes you really have to look at the location of where this is all happening at. And for this instance, it is Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Now, I will say this. Sault Ste. Marie has its very, very share of paranormal accounts. There are, restaurants, bars, hotels that have people talking about being chased out of a room or sitting down talking with someone for an hour-long conversation only to find out that they were never there in the first place. The town, the town Sault Ste. Marie has its own history of death. And so not only that, but I also look into something else, which is water. Water is a conductor of the paranormal. Water is also considered to be a gateway for the paranormal to come in and out, just like a mirror. And so, where his home is located, there is a lake nearby, and that lake has had a lot of drownings and it's had a lot of death around it. And so that, to me, could possibly be a conductor for that vengeful spirit to manifest and make itself known, to be able to even grab him on the ankle like that, So, this story is definitely chilling.
A bunk bed.
Yes,
to
a bunk
fall
bed.
off a bunk bed like that because you're being grabbed on the ankle. There's bars. How do you fall because there's bars?
Remember, though, if you go into REM sleep, you won't be able to really do much.
I know, but you said he said his feet were hanging off the bed.
Yeah, he had to stick his foot off the bed.
Yeah, there's a bar before he can just automatically fall.
Right.
That's
a lot.
That makes no sense.
And it's those things like right there that make you go, this is quite possibly a real paranormal experience, because for someone to have their foot hanging like that and for a spirit to be able to fully actually grab the ankle, rip you down, and make you hurt yourself, no, I'm good. I don't need any more of that.
I think one of the things that makes it really interesting as well, too, is that this is a human spirit doing all this. That, having the ability to grab someone and even hurt them to draw blood takes an enormous power.
That's a lot of energy.
That's a lot of energy to do that and to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Over
So it kind of
time.
makes me wonder too, like what
watch
was the
those.
energy in the house?
Yeah.
With the with the folks and
exactly.
him and his brother and all that, because they say that when a vengeful spirit or a poltergeist of some sort doesn't really make itself fully known unless the energy in the room is at a negative level. So it kind of makes me wonder, was there a lot of negative energy in the house which allowed this spirit to manifest? Was it something that had to do with John himself?
Yeah.
Was it, the fact that he was so afraid to talk about it that it was scaring him so much, giving that spirit or that vengeful spirit power and energy to be able to cause harm to him like that?
I think that's probably the case.
Yeah, I mean, there's
yeah.
the thing is that there's a multitude of reasons why this could have happened in the first place. Whether it's the town itself, whether it's the state itself, or whether it's just John himself or the family itself. Yeah. So there's a lot of questions for the story, but there's a lot of justification as to what happened and why it happened. So that's just my final thoughts on that.
How did it get from above the door to under his bed?
That is creepy.
Right?
Yeah, the handsaw.
Yeah.
And why was there a handsaw above your doorway in the first place?
And how is there not like negativity following just the handsaw itself?
Yeah.
I bet you that.
Now, there are families that are very traditional, and that is that if someone in the family from like 1900s had tools or whatever that they use and they found it, they like to keep that stuff as a memorabilia.
I would
Yeah,
love
memento.
To have that stuff from the 1600s.
Yeah. Right?
Give
Could you
it all
imagine?
to me, man. I can
It's
sell
like when
this
people
stuff for thousands.
find cannonballs or bullets from the Civil War, like out in Virginia, they keep them. They keep them, but the problem is that when they keep them, they also are bringing back some sort of energy with them, and they tend to get.
FYI, I would not sell my stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just thought it was
So,
pretty funny.
I mean, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. So, well, I guess that's going to about do it. Bring this episode to a close. If you enjoyed this chilling ghost story, please let us know. Leave us a message or a comment on all our social media pages. We've got Facebook at Pod Paranormal 87, Instagram at Void Podcast 18, Twitter at Nightwing Silver. Also, be sure to check out our website, and we are happy to announce that.
Patreon.
Well, not just that,
Guess who
but we are
it
happy to
is?
announce that our web address has been shortened down finally. That's right. We have a domain.
Oh, man. Thank goodness.
We finally have a domain that is intothevoidpod.com.
So easy to find.
Yeah, it's better than that GoDaddy line that we used.
I mean, thank you, GoDaddy, for helping
Oh, absolutely.
us.
Yeah.
It's the best website ever if you want to get a website off the ground.
Yeah.
But it's so good to have a .com.
Yes. Oh, man. So, again, that is intothevoidpod.com. Please go onto that website, check it out, leave a comment, read the ghostly blogs that we put up on there.
Let me know how I'm doing because I run it.
Yes, Nicole runs the website along with our IT guy, David Fant.
He does. He's fantastic.
Oh, he's
the one
doing
who helped us get
he's
the
doing a great
.com.
job. Yeah.
Yeah.
So please go and check out the website. And lastly, before we officially end this, I'd like to take a minute to talk about this because I'm very happy we finally get to make this announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, bats and ghouls, we have a Patreon. That's right. What better way to be even closer to the show than to make a contribution to the show starting as low as $1 a month?
$1.
$1 does not make it holla.
We have $1 now. And guess who that is?
And we have our first ever Patreon contributor, ladies and gentlemen. Nicole has managed has managed to make a Patreon. All right, so we have a Patreon account. If you go on the Patreon account and you are able to donate $1 or $5 or even $30, you will receive a sticker. And I just kind of want to go over a little bit of the Patreon account. When you go onto the Patreon and you look up Into the Void Pod, you can basically look to see what the tiers are. And the tiers are titled as Explorers of the Void, which is only $1 a month. You'll be able to, let's see, the $1 lets you get you an exclusive role on a Discord chat server, which we have. It's a Discord basically to be able to talk to the crew, talk to the host. If you have a ghost story or, you had some curiosity about some ghost stuff, please go ahead and go on the tier. And we can, one of us will be on there, or maybe all of us will be on there, and we'll talk to you about whatever paranormal is going on.
I will definitely be on there all the time because Jonathan's on his all the time.
Oh, really?
I like to say, guess what? I'm on Discord now too.
Oh, snap. Also, a username shout out on the podcast is an awesome Into the Void sticker that you will receive. And it also comes with that warm, fuzzy feeling that you are helping to support the podcast. At a $5 rate, you can get an exclusive role on the Discord chat server, access to the Patreon online chat channel, and also receive a sticker. We also have Heroes of the Void, which is starting at $10 a month. Into the Void Local Reporter, which is at $15 level, includes everything in the Heroes of the Void tier. Plus, you can submit a 5-minute local report having to do with the paranormal.
That would be so cool. You
That sounds like
hear
fun.
other people's
That would-
recordings
yeah.
of what's either happened to them or what they hear going
I'd be
around
very
their
excited.
town.
Very excited. We also have it at $20 level, which is the Into the Void Associate Producer. Includes everything in the Heroes of the Void tier, plus a one-time personal invite to the recording studio or a handwritten thank you note and autographed headshot from G-Man himself. That's me.
That's me.
And lastly, I'm just going to be quiet about that because I don't like headshots.
And it's autographed.
And it's autographed.
With love.
Please ignore my penmanship. Into the Void Executive Producer level. That is at the $30 level. Includes everything in the Associate Producer tier, plus an invite to quite possibly our end of the year meet and greet party. That is still underway, so we will be talking about that later on, but looks like we may be doing that. Other than that, please go on to the Patreon account. Do us a favor and just contribute. Even $1 a month is going to help the show in every way. It allows us to get more for the show, do more for the show, bring a lot more exciting and chilling and spooky stories, bring in more people, more interviews, more guests. So that's something that we'd really like to just stress and let people know about. Renee, before we end, do you have anything you want to mention? Or are you good to go? Or
Yeah, if you guys interested in following me, you guys can just follow me on Instagram at Renee G. Bravo.
That's right. That's right. Well,
Yep. Check out the website.
yes.
Check out the website. Yeah.
Yes, please check out the websites. We have in-studio photos, ghostly blogs that are sent to us all the time. You can also listen to every episode that has ever been put up on the website.
Yep. This story should probably be up tonight.
I believe it'll be up tonight, yes. By the time this episode is out and done, aired,
It'll be on the
it'll
website.
be up there, yeah. All right, well, that's going to do it for us on this episode of Into the Void. Please be sure to tune in to the next episode as we talk about anything and everything paranormal with YouTuber, vlogger, and haunted locations explorer, Kelsey Davis. Until then, a big thank you to Renee for joining me on this ghost story, along with Nicole for coming in and joining us with this ghost story. And as always, I am G-Man, and I would like to thank you for falling with me into the void. We'll catch you next time.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.